Hey kiddos, glad you came for a reading lesson today. For today's lesson, you're going to need your reader writer journal and a pen or a pencil. I'll be using a pen today so you can see it under the camera when we do the assignment at the end. And then you will eventually also need a book. Today I will be using The Girl Who Drank the Moon by Kelly Barnhill. So let's get started. Today we are going to talk about how a writer uses a word that is opposite or nearly opposite in meaning to help you understand a word you don't know. Think back to this book, A Little Book of Sloth. This book was all about sloths in a sanctuary just for sloths. The passage we're looking at today is wild sloths are solitary animals, but the sanctuary sloths make friends for life. The word we are talking about in this book is solitary. Maybe you're not sure what the word solitary means, but the author gives you a clue by using the word but, which always means the opposite thing is coming. The sanctuary sloths make friends for life. So when you read wild sloths are solitary animals, and then you read the word but, you know the opposite meaning is coming. What about this next book, Face to Face with Whales? This one was all about different kinds of whales and where they live and how they migrate. And it's really tiny, so you might not be able to see it on the screen, but it says gray whales were sometimes aggressive toward boats in the days when they were hunted. Back to this one here. Let's look at that word aggressive. Sometimes it's not quite as obvious where those opposite words might be. But as we read this, gray whales were sometimes aggressive toward boats in the days when they were hunted. So were aggressive. So that means they're no longer aggressive. Today, they occasionally approach small boats with gentle intent, wanting to be touched by people. Now it's your turn. Go ahead and grab that reader writer's journal that you've made in class. Okay, we're going to work on the reader's side today. Turn to the part that says mini lesson notes. So in your journal, you have a tab that says mini lesson notes. We're going to turn to that tab. Now my tab has lots of notes in it since I've been using this since the beginning of the year. And we're just going to turn to the next blank space. Your blank space will probably be closer to the front than my blank space. And we're going to write this in our journal. So today's date is 2/3/21. A writer uses a word that is opposite or nearly opposite in meaning to help you understand a word you don't know. I'll flip back to the screen so you can copy that down. As I flip back, go ahead and pause the video if you need to see it. Go ahead and pause here if you need to stop so you can copy. Otherwise, keep going. Now in your writer's journal, I'm going to give you a couple of examples. So this is the book that I've been reading out loud about once a week. Yeah, we've skipped a couple weeks. The Girl Who Drank the Moon by Kelly Barnhill. Now I've gone through and already marked a couple of words, so I didn't have to search for them while you were watching this video. So a word I came across was clomping, and you can see that I made a note in there just so you could see it. The word is clomping. I'm going to write that word down, clomping. And this is what I want you to do also when you find your words, clomping. Now, you're not going to write clomping because you're not reading The Girl Who Drank the Moon. You're reading a different book, so you're going to find a different word. It says, she stood and walked to the door without making a sound. Antain followed her, his boots clomping heavily on the floorboards. So this character, she, stood and walked into the door without making a sound. And we can tell by the way Antain followed her, his boots clomping heavily on the floor, that clomping is the opposite of without making a sound. So in my journal, I'm going to write clomping does not equal the opposite of not making a sound. Clomping does equal loud and noisy. Let's do one more together. On this page, I look up here. She looked around. Firion was curled up at the foot of her bed. That was regular. He loved sleeping in her bed, though her grandmother often forbade it. The word I'm looking at is forbade. And I'll write that down in my journal. Forbade. In this case, I'm going to do the does equal first. Forbade, I know, means forbidden or not allowed. But in order to help somebody understand what that word forbade means, we're going to use the opposite word. So he loved sleeping in her bed, though it was forbidden. So the opposite of forbidden is allowed. All right, your turn. I'm going to move this a little closer to my camera, and hopefully it will focus so you can see it. In your journal, after you've written the definition for today's lesson, a writer uses a word that is opposite or nearly opposite in meaning to help you understand a word you don't know. You are going to write 3, 4, or 5 words that you found in your book that you want to give the opposite meaning for to help someone else understand it. So you'll find a word that's interesting. You'll tell me what it means in your writer's journal. And then you'll also tell me what is the opposite of it meaning. Okay, kiddos, I can't wait to see the books you've read. Don't forget to click that Turn In button after you've done the assignment.